Dummy! This is why people need to invent magnetic brakes. Because, dummy! High-tech exhaust there. Wow. I could have swore I just ran into this with some other dummy just not too long ago that wants to drive their car until the brake pad falls out and the brakes don't work anymore. This one was still working on 2 brakes, so that's pretty good. It's better than the last one that was like this, that was working on 1. Got a caliper piston that's leaking on this side. Got a caliper piston leaking on the left front too. 2-wheel drive Toyota. You never see these in Minnesota. I wonder where this thing came from. 2003 2-wheel drive Toyota 4runner. I'll be replacing all the pads and rotors and calipers on this. Now on the rears, the caliper support bracket bolts and the caliper bolts are both 17 millimeter. I'm not going to take these caliper bolts off though. I'm just going to take the ones off on the support bracket. There's 2 of them. Kind of stuck. Okay, I guess I'll be taking these off after all. And it's still stuck. Ugh. That's because people are stupid. Wow! Look at that. That's really special. Wow! I love it. I should put that on a wall of shame. I should start a wall of shame. Shame. Oh my God. These aren't supposed to come out. Ooh, brake fluid, yummy. That's just beautiful. Look at that. Jeez, dummy! I don't know where the brake pad is. It's gone. Of course, yeah, the rotor's almost ground down to half of nothing. And on this caliper, you got a banjo bolt that's a 14 millimeter. Take apart the other side the same way if you're doing it. The brake reservoir on this thing is ginormous, and there's almost nothing in it. Obviously, I'm going to have to bleed out the brakes. I'm going to gravity bleed this while I'm doing a brake job. I'm just going to take a big bottle, a 32 fluid ounce bottle, and just leave it tipped upside down like that. And this reservoir will fill up and it won't go all over the place. There's only about a quarter of a bottle left in that. I'm going to probably have to use another 32 ounce bottle for this thing. It should just start gravity bleeding out of here. And I'm just going to let that go for a good amount of time. Usually I let it go until there's clear fluid, but it looks like they've been putting fluid in this thing, so there's already clear fluid coming out of it. Now for the front, I lightly pinched off this brake line. This doesn't have a banjo bolt, it's a regular steel line. I'm going to unbolt it from here. These are 10 millimeter. Using a line wrench on this. Wow, that's not even bolted down. I'm going to have to do something about that. That's completely wrong. So anyways, I'm going to try to take this off. Sometimes these are rusted in real good to the point where they won't come off, and if you twist them up too much, you got to replace this little chunk of line if they're rusted too much. I'm going to throw a torch on it. Get some MAP gas on here. Usually that loosens them up pretty good. Yeah, that worked real nice. And there's 2 17 millimeters for this caliper. And they are really tight. I'll get a little more torque out of a shorty, chromey. We'll try that. That bolt's broke. I'm gonna have to drill that out. I don't want to put this together with it like that. It's wrong. This is a center punch. They're pretty slick. This is what creepers use to break your window to steal your shit in your car. When you get to the end on a little drill bit, you always want to go real slow because these things will break if they bite too much. Actually, what I like to do is keep the chuck a little loose. This is a piece of crap drill and a piece of crap chuck that doesn't work very good, so I don't break a whole lot of small drill bits with it. When you drill them, you might think it's a good idea to get this perfectly centered. And I never do. It's almost impossible anyways, but if it's a little off kilter, that's fine. On one side, I'm barely biting into all of the threads, and on the other side, I still got a whole lot of material left over. And the reason why I do that is because I made my own tool. Nobody sells anything like this, but if you can look at the angle, there's a flat on one side, and then I bevel it down on both sides here and here, and then I round it right here with a grinder. If you can see the way I got that. And that way I can just stick it in on this side right here and try to get this out. A lot of times you can get behind the bolt on the one side and lift it all out of the way. This one's stuck really good. It's not going to work. It's in there way too good. Helicoil time. This is 8x125. Well, I ran through a bottle already. Getting these off may require a little friendly persuasion. You want to clean this mating surface, make sure there's no high spots or rust on it. These look really good. What the heck? And then on these rotors, they're going to ask you what the measurement is. These are 12.5. There's a 12.5 and a 13 point something rotor for these. There's two different rotors for this truck. If they don't ask you, then they're doing something wrong. And then there's like 3 different calipers on these too. On the back side, you'll see these numbers right here. This one says 13WG as in girl. And there's like 2 or 3 different calipers that they put on these trucks too. So you got to make sure you got the right front calipers and the right front rotors. And as far as I know, all the rears are the same. They got nice, clean, clear fluid coming out of here. So I'm just letting it gravity bleed. Quite a bit of fluid in here I'd let drip out of here. So I'm just going to very lightly pinch this brake hose off. Very, very lightly. I don't want to get too carried away. I'm going to go up here actually. There. It should stop dripping. I'm going to do the same to the other side, and then I'm going to start gravity bleeding the fronts the same way. Now that I got all 4 lines pinched off with vice grips, I just want to push on the pedal. It's as hard as a rock. So I don't have to pump it up at all, so I know there's no air in the system going out to all these lines. I cleaned the rotor real good, made sure there's no oil or cosmoline on it, make sure it's really clean. And on these calipers, you want to put lubricant on these flats right here and on the pistons. And they're not marked right and left that I can see What you want to do is make sure that this bleeder screw's on the top. If it's on the bottom, it's on the wrong side. Make sure all this is clean. Try not to cross thread it. That's the best advice I can give you. This bolt here is supposed to be a 12 millimeter. Use a line wrench to tighten that up. And I can slide these pads in. There'll be a wear indicator on one of them. And that's going to be for the inboard pad. And I'm going to put the wear indicator on the bottom. You just slide these in here. And you got these goofy little clippy things in here that go this way, I think. Those help spread the pad apart. I don't trust these either. I've had these things come out before. A lot of times I pitch these and I put cotter pins in here because these things can fall right out. Yeah, so I just put a nice little skinny cotter pin in here. I like that better. Yeah, those don't come out. While I do the rest of these calipers, I'm just going to open up this bleeder, take off my vice grip. I'm just going to let that gravity bleed out. This particular type of caliper likes to trap air. I just cracked it open and I'm going to let it gravity bleed. See, I got a good amount of fluid coming out of it, and it's a nice steady stream of fluid. You'd think there's no air in it, but I can take a dead blow hammer and just wrap on this a little bit. That's going to force the air out. See? Now I got air coming out of it. These 4-piston calipers, they can trap a lot of air. There's more. Oh, a whole bunch more. Ooh, look at that. Jolly. A jolly bunch more. And after I think I got out as much as I can, then when I hit the brakes a bunch of times and pull the pistons in, then I'll just crack the bleeder and let it gravity bleed again. Now these are marked right and left, the rear calipers. The passenger's always right. The passenger's always wrong. In a good kit with brake pads, they'll have these little wear abutment type funky little clips. You want to put those on the bottom. You want to put them on like that. So when your brake pad gets down to like 2 or 3 millimeters, it's going to rub on that and drive you freaking crazy until it rubs off and falls off and stuff. I'm going to put these on before I put them in the car. I think they're on there too to help keep it from rattling so the pads don't go back and forth. And I'm going to put the brake lube on the piston and on this surface right here. First thing I'm going to do is get the old banjo seal off of here. Just kind of clean this surface, make sure there's no grit. You want to make sure that this surface isn't all butchered up. It looks fair to good enough. You got to put a banjo bolt washer, screw this thing in. Feels nice. This new bolt's a 12 millimeter. These crush washers are always tricky. You just want to keep tightening them and you'll feel them crush. And they're kind of zeroed right now. I'm just going to go a little more. And those should not leak. I'll check them after I get everything done and put a bunch of pressure on here. Now I can go ahead and take my feeder bottle out. Gonna stomp on the pedal a bunch of times. I'm gonna hit it like this. Try to feed the air up. Then I'm gonna wait 10 seconds. I'm gonna hit it again. and it went down and up more. So there's air in the calipers still. All kinds coming out of this thing. Air, air, air. Lots and lots of air. There, I got a steady stream now. Do the same to this side, of course. All kinds of air. There, now I got a steady stream. There's nothing coming out of there. It's all from the front. Nothing. I'm going to go ahead and try this again. It's up there pretty good. There might still be just a little bit of air somewhere. Now that I pump it up, I'm going to hold this down with a lot of pressure, because I'm going to try to look for leaks on them banjo bolts and them compression fittings on the brake lines. Let it sit here for about 20-30 seconds. The pedal didn't leak down any. That's dry. No drips onto the banjo. Nice and dry. That one there's not leaking any either. Well, I'm going to call that good. I'm going to get some tires on it, put it on the ground, and drive it around. Well, I went and took this beast for a test drive, and yeah, I could pump the pedal just a little bit. It come up probably about a half an inch to an inch. Not very much, so I pulled it back in after I drove it and used the brakes quite a bit, and I just cranked the wheel to the left and the right so I could get at the bleeders in the front for the calipers, and I just cracked them open. I got a little more air out of them, and now it feels really nice. So another job well done. Okay, bye.